Okay, we got a request for 0.6, number 32. We have cosine of x is equal to negative 0.7. We're asked to solve the equation on the specified interval. And our interval in this case is 2 pi to 4 pi. So this is not between 0 and 2 pi as we're kind of used to having as an interval to solve in. This is the second time around the unit circle. So we have to be careful about our answers here. So first of all, let's do the analytical stuff. This is cosine of x is equal to negative 0.7. We could then make the statement that x is equal to the inverse cosine of negative 0.7. So that's kind of the first instinct we should have. What undoes the work of a cosine? Its inverse function. So you kind of imagine of taking like an inverse cosine of both sides of this equation, you get this. Okay, so let's also take a graphical perspective of this. So we want to consider what type of angle this is talking about. It's talking about an angle x whose cosine is negative. So that's not quadrant 1, that's not quadrant 4. We're talking about a quadrant 2 angle because cosines are negative in quadrant 2, but we're also talking about there's an equivalent in the third quadrant right over here because cosines are negative there, and we can imagine an angle where we have a cosine, which is, of course, the x, oops, that's not a very good line, the x value of an angle being, I guess, the same exact thing in quadrant 2 as in quadrant 3. All right, so from here, I think what we want to do first is get over to a calculator that is going to allow us to find the inverse cosine of negative 0.7. So we're going to go second cosine that gets the inverse cosine, negative 0.7 into that parenthesis, hit enter, and we have 2.346. So let's get that down. We've got x equals 2.346, although that's not an answer. And we can figure that out pretty quickly by taking a look at the interval again and saying, okay, we want the x values between 2 pi and 4 pi. And just a quick little bit of calculation in my head, 2 pi would be 6.28. And then 4 pi would be what? Something like 12.56. Yeah. So this is definitely not there. What we need to do is act like this is the second quadrant angle. And then how about we just add a full unit circle to it? So what we want to do is say we're here. Let's go around the circle one more time and hit that angle again. So what we want to do then is basically just add 2 pi to that. So let's go back to the graphing calculator, and then we're going to hit plus. So we've got answer plus 2 pi and hit enter. So there we have 8.629. 8.629. And that's going to be an answer, but it's not necessarily going to be our only answer because as we discussed a while ago, we actually have two angles that could fit the solution to this original equation because we have a second quadrant angle that has a negative cosine of, or a cosine of negative 0.7, and then an equivalent third quadrant angle that has the same one. So here's how we do this. So this angle that we have right here, we're considering it to be 8.629 degrees. What we want to do is figure out exactly how far away from the axis is that. And that axis is 3 pi, right? Because we're now in that second go around of the circle. So how close are we to 3 pi? And then what we'll do is take that difference here and then add it to 3 pi and we'll get that angle as well. So what we're going to do in the calculator is take 3 pi, we're going to subtract 8.629, and then whatever that answer is, we're going to add that back to 3 pi, and that will take us the same amount of space over to the other side. So let's go back to our graphing calculator and let's go 3 pi minus our previous answer. and hit enter. So, that wasn't our previous answer, was it? Let's try that again. Let's go 3 pi minus this number. So let's try that. Okay, 0.795. And then what we want to do is take 3 pi, which is that negative x-axis, and then add this space that we found here, this angle measure that we found there, and we get about 10.22. And so that is going to be our other answer. This stuff right here is going to be 10.220. And so there are our two results here and here. So this one was about 10.220. So we have our two answers. We've solved number 32. I figured before we finish off this video, what we could do though is take another look at solving this equation completely graphically. And here's how I would do that. We know we want to solve this between 2 pi and 4 pi. And here's the equation we want to solve. So one way to work this out would be to move all of the terms over to the left side of the equation so that we have cosine of x plus 0.7, and that right now is equal to 0. And what we can do is say, well, we can let this be y1 in our calculator, and then we can go to the calculator and change the x minimum to 2 pi and change the x maximum to 4 pi. And basically what we can do is just find the zeros of this equation. So I'll show you how to go about doing that. So let's go back to our TI-84. Let's go to our y equals screen. If you have anything in there, which of course I do, we want to clear those out. So we're going to go y equals cosine of x plus 0.7, and then enter kind of locks it in. Then we're going to hit the window button, and we're going to change our x minimum to a 2 pi. We'll change our x maximum to a 4 pi. And then maybe our scale could be something like pi over 2. So that's just how often do you see the tick mark on the x-axis. And then we'll change our y min, I don't know, to like say negative, how about negative 4 up to positive 4 by 1s. And now let's take a look at this graph. That graph's quick. So there we have it. And since we have in our work that this equation is equal to 0 now, all we really want to do is locate the zeros of this equation. And we can do that, again, using the calculator by using the calc menu. It's above trace. It's F4. So we've got to hit second calc. And then one of the options here, option 2, is 0. So we can find the zeros. And then we're going to get asked 3 questions. We want a left bound, a right bound, and a guess. So all you got to do is move the arrows over to the left of the answer and then hit enter. And then move the arrows to the right of the answer. And then we'll hit enter again. And then a guess, we just want to get as close as we can. We'll hit enter, and hey, 8.629. You can still see it behind my screen here. That is the first answer we got. And then we can run this back and go second calc, and we'll go zeros again. And this time we're going to try to find the zeros on the other side. So we're going to go left bound. That's to the left. We'll hit enter. And then right bound. We want to get to the right of the answer. That's far enough to the right. We'll hit enter. A guess. We just want to get kind of close. Hit enter. And hey, 10.220. That was our other answer. So there's a completely different way we could have solved that one using just the graphing calculator and the graph mode. And here's the algebraic way to get that done. So that was everything. We solved it 2 different ways. Hopefully that helps you out.